Thank you. In 1910, my grandparents were living in a lodging house on Roosevelt Street. However, they weren't actually counted in the 1910 census, and I know because I checked. And they weren't counted because, like most of the Italian immigrants that were living there then, they hid actively from the census takers, who themselves were also not so eager to crawl around this creepy 200-year-old lodging house. Somehow, 100 years later, we still haven't managed to solve this problem of how to count people that may have reasons that they don't want to be counted. And since that we know that despite what the U.S. Census says today, our city has experienced unprecedented growth in the last decade and continues to add new people every day. But it was no surprise to us at CHPC that the census got it so wrong in 2010, because like my grandparents of 100 years ago, so many people are still living in shared households or in places that are not legal for them to be. And while your work to improve neighborhoods, creating new housing, and protecting our old housing stock is so vital, we also have to remember that who we actually are as a city is rapidly changing. As of 2009, about 2 million people, or 23% of our households, were sharing homes with at least one other adult person who could be head of their own household. Many do so illegally, so we make outlaws out of hardworking immigrants and recent Brown graduates alike. And while certainly some will blame this simply on a housing shortage, a close look at what really happens shows a much more complex picture. One that calls for not just more housing, but housing that rethinks how space is used on the inside. Near the end of 2009, we held a symposium called One Size Fits Some at the Japan Society to showcase and talk about the work of 6 architects from 5 cities in the US, Germany, Spain, Japan, and Canada, who are designing and building cutting-edge housing models that meet the needs of their changing populations. And while their work wasn't intended to just be copied in New York City, it did make it clear that we were no longer the innovators in shaping new housing types to match how people really live. Today, we are so pleased to announce that we've received a generous grant from the Charles H. Revson Foundation, and I think Julian Ramos, who's our program officer, is here with us today, which will make it possible for us to take this project to another level. We've started to work with the Architectural League to create actual new housing prototypes specifically designed for New York City that is so desperately needed to make room for people who are already here and the many more that are expected to come. We've turned again to our friends from the Japan Society, Betty Borden and Fumiko Miyamoto, who are also here with us today, to take advantage again of their incredible hospitality and use their beautiful auditorium to present the work of 4 architectural teams led by our international colleagues who will work with some of New York City's most creative young architects. So next November, we hope you'll join us at the Japan Society for our showcase event, Making Room. And since we already know that all of their ideas will be at odds with our existing codes and regulations, we'll then work with all of you to advocate for the regulatory relief that we will need to bring cutting-edge innovation in housing back to New York City where it belongs. Thank you.